Welcome back to my beat, and let's just dive right back into The Shining. I want to back up just a little to clarify before we get to this next breakdown in the games room, that in this, just before we see Danny, we see the four persons there walking, and what I'm trying to say. They're discussing, Wendy is asking about the famous people who lived here, and you know, Ullman is sort of talking about these big presidents and whatever, and he asked about royalty and all the best people, he says, right? He doesn't say necessarily royalty, but all the best people, right? I think this is Kubrick. There is a hint at Freemasonry, Illuminati, secret societies, the big people, and the gold standard, and gold, and these sort of under central banking maybe, and stuff like that, and the big people in who pulls the strings, though it has to look like we're all in it together in democracy, but these people have, you know, a monopoly on money supply and things like that. This was something that concerned Kubrick, and this is obviously why there's a gold room here, right? But we'll get back to that later. But it's also that because these sort of so-called secret societies that Kubrick dealt with in Eyes Wide Shut, most clearly, most directly, right? He's concerned about the connections with the Epstein thing we have going at the moment, right? And all the powerful people are being sort of those who can be controlled by their deviant sexuality, and, you know, being trafficked underage people, so to say, right? Can be controlled if they sort of can record it and then say, okay, you're going to do what we say now, little politician president, because we have a recording of you doing this, that, and the other, right? So it's this, he's alluding to how underage children young people are being used in a bigger game of manipulation and control and power and so on. I am convinced that he does this because it goes through basically all his movies, this power discrepancies and fear and desire and the subconscious, all this sort of going on, or how it manifests in the bigger picture with power structures and all this, right? He was concerned about this. So, but as Ullman, he mentions these powerful people. I think that this is Kubrick's way of saying, okay, now either by her own in consideration, she is appealing to something that actually the story she's telling actually appealed to some in her subconscious, and now she has another breakdown because she's reminded of powerful people who maybe in some way or another connected with her parents did something to her, right? Her parents are right there, right? They're walking beside her, right? They're luring her into this hotel, right? It's all built into this, right? And you also have these, there is this, these columns behind them, and sort of, it smells a bit of, you know, seems like, you know, some pyramid shit going on also. It feels Masonic. This sort of ugly Masonic symbolism, and it's just disgusting to me, right? But I can sort of feel it and spot it when I see it, right? And I think the whole hotel is embedded in this sort of Masonic feel. It's bad taste general, right? And it's sort of the ordered photographs and lines and all weird patterns, and it feels Masonic as shit, this place, right? In my personal opinion. And the two columns there is probably the most glaring Masonic symbolism that we have here, right? And that might also be why the Jack Nicholson, or Jack the character, is placed right in the center of this sort of pattern on the back wall there. Okay, but she gets a breakdown because she's reminded of these powerful people. And that's why we switch over to her Danny form, her childhood form, and, you know, her split personality, right? And it's a slow zoom out. Danny's throwing dart with the red flyers. I mentioned that last time. The poster arranged in the triptych theme. Before we zoom out, then there are more posters. But as we get in, there is this triptych behind him, right? Danny shakes his hand. I mentioned that last time. And there's about this lighting a cigarette and the blue posters. Okay, so let's take the next one. The camera pans fairly fast with Danny, right? And this is something also I might mention before I start, that in this beginning part, we are introduced to the hotel, but the way the camera is also always sort of close to the characters and zoomed in, maybe, and zoomed a bit out, and then panning, and we get glimpses of how it's composed, but we don't see it that clearly, actually, right? We have seen the corner of the lobby. We have seen the sort of sideways tracking through the Colorado Lounge. That doesn't really give you a good impression of the space. It's just sort of an annoying angle to be informed about the place, right? It's being established, but not particularly well. It's because Kubrick wants it to keep much hidden. You're being introduced, but you're not shown too much, right? And then when you see it next time, it's from a different angle. And then you might see a part of the last angle embedded in the new angle. And then you have to, visually and three-dimensionally try to piece together. Has this sofa moved compared to the other shot from the other angle? And this way he can sort of camouflage a lot of things that you don't see because it's more like it's being hinted at than being shown, right? Sometimes you're shown something, other times you're not really. This feels very claustrophobic, this kind of shooting here, the camera, that you're up close at Danny at his level and sort of panning, and then you're looking into the wall, right? So it's a very claustrophobic feeling. It both adds to the mystery of the place, but it also adds to the feeling of it's kind of personal, right? This is it. Many people, some people at least, have mentioned how they feel that the beginning of this movie is sort of boring before we get going with the first real action is when Jack yells at Wendy when he sits there writing, right? In that where she stands up and talks to him, right? And he calls her names and whatever. I don't need to repeat, right? But there's a hell of a lot of going on here, and you might just be sort of, hey, I'm just waiting till the ghosts come, right? There's so much shit going on, right? So, and this is how Kubrick keeps it sort of, he opens the lid a bit, but he doesn't show you everything, right? So you have to sort of work with him and piece things together. Okay, so the camera pans fast with Danny walking towards he had thrown the darts, and details in the back moves quickly through the frame, right? So there are 7 to 9 balls on the pool table, and several of them are yellowish, as best as I can see. I'm not a pool guy, so I don't know the colors of these, how many different colors there are, and that maybe you can help me, right? The US flag is bleeding through. Again, the US flag is from the Colorado Lounge they just passed through, right? This is sort of, this whole games room is one big mess, in my opinion, right? It is completely, it's like, this is a completely different place than the hotel. This is like institutional lighting, and so it's quite uncomfortable place, in my personal opinion. It's a kind of a mess. If you have some kind of institution, these are generally tend to be a kind of messy, ugly places, because those who work there don't have to live there. Those who live there doesn't have anything to say about how it's composed, right? So it's sort of a communist place, right? That's why communism goes to shit, right? The power is in wrong hands. As we pan through this in the next, then something will be revealed, but you have to keep your eyes focused as it goes through, right? So when the back wall is in view, a large 2 eyes and 1 mouth, and even a nose with the clock there, right? Composition is revealed. It is completely symmetric, with photo arrangements and so on, right? And then again, these photos, I mean, they have taken the time to mount something like 48 or 50 or 60, whatever, photographs on the wall. They must be very proud of this place, right? Or the people who came here, right? But again, it's this face you're seeing, the scared child's face, right? It's very obvious, in my opinion. With a clock and skiing poster. 3 elongated lights in the ceiling, resembling somewhat the lights in Ullman's office, right? Resembling the 3 lights in Ullman's office. Now there are sort of 3 lights in the ceiling here, right? And also, if you cut down this movie to this ugly 16 by 9, 16 by 9 by 6, how 16 by 9. You don't see these details. The details all, excuse me, the details all over the place. Not only in the middle of the picture, in the whole picture, or very close to the edge, right? In sort of a 4x3 composition. This is why it has to be preserved in the almost or near full frame as much as you can get in. There's nothing that is supposed to be left out. You can leave some of it out and still get a functional movie out of it. But I'm absolutely convinced this is composed for 4x3 and even more maybe, right? But at least 4x3. When it gets to the home video version, Kubrick is planning that this is not going to be for the cinema. This is going to be many, many years of home video. It's going to be shown in the theaters for a few months, and then be taken down. But it will stay on people's VHS videos for years and years and years. And he wants the whole 4x3 picture on the television to show not black line, what's it called, when you have this widescreen in the middle in the old days, and then black boxes, or they will cut out the middle even more and show even less of the movie, right? He wants to avoid that, so that when we get to the 4x3 version of the movie, there would actually be more movie in the VHS, and people will say, yeah, you saw it in the theaters, but I have a bigger version. You see more in the VHS, so people will sort of flock to the VHS in order to analyze this movie in years and years and years to come after the premieres here, right? It just didn't happen in this way, as I believe Kubrick had planned out. But you see this this face there, right? And there's also there are 2 pool tables. Why not just 1 pool table, but 2 pool tables? And there's also a pool table in the Colorado Lounge. Actually, I think you see that as we enter from the elevator in the prior part, and I didn't mention that, but it's kind of weird to have a pool table there in that fancy. It's not completely out of place, but if you have pool tables here, why wouldn't you have all your pool tables here? Why a pool table? Is it a more fancy pool table or what? It's just sort of half confused, right? Strangely, there are some megaphone type speakers in the far corners, also in symmetry. If you look up to the left of the US flag and to the right of the, I think it's Colorado flag, which is incredibly, there's a little yellow ball there, and red, blue, and white, sort of the Wendy colors. It's kind of incredible, and it alludes to the triptych and all that. That's why Kubrick has put it there, right? In order to remind you of the triptych theme in the movie. And there's also a triptych, it's also dealing with a face, and it's just, to me, it's rather obvious. But these speakers are interesting. Why would you have these kinds of speakers? Is this game room? This is almost like a bingo hall, or you know, if they had a sort of amateur theater or rock concert or something like that. Why would you have these kinds of speakers here in a hotel? This is an odd place, right? It feels very much like something that is just jumbled together, if you get my meaning, right? And if you can do that by just find a room and then shove shit into it, right? But it could also be because it is imagined, and it is sort of the story that Wendy, as I think, who is the first person creating the story, is just filling it up with sort of what she sort of, from her recollection. And there's just shit thrown into the place. She's telling the story about Danny, but she's not really that interested in the background stuff. And that's why they sort of jumble together in this weird fashion, right? And it sort of also reflects her mentality. That's why this hotel is so weird in a way, because it's more or less put together in sort of jumbled fashion. And sometimes when you get back to the same scene, she forgets that she had a sofa there or a chair there, and now it's not there. Or she brings something in that she didn't have the last time. Or a light switch disappears and things like that, right? The darts have landed on 10 outside the area that is 10. 19 and 3 between and outside, and 16 inside the area. So Danny is not that good at playing dart, right? And I don't blame him. This looks to me as if the arrows seen are the actual ones thrown by Danny. In a continuous shot like this, it would probably be difficult, if not impossible, to make a realistic throwing by a 5-year-old that did not hit the board and have already planted the darts on the board like a 2, 3, 7. So there's no numerology here, right? So these are the real darts that he throws, and maybe they took the scene like 40, 50 times until it looked right, and the darts sat somewhat correctly in the board, and you know, right? Okay, so in addition to the strange choice of horn speakers in the corners, there is also a spotlight visible above the fluorescent light panels in the ceiling. What is it doing there? This way up in the top, right? There's sort of a weird spotlight, like this sort of a professional concert spotlight, resembling at least. It seems kind of just weird to have such a thing there, right? Okay, so the dartboard is placed in a kind of cupboard that can, so just like the windows we were talking about before, right? This resembles the triptych painting, the Memling painting, and its related theme. Since the darts are red, they land in the lower part of the triptych. It may have a reference to the lower person in the painting, and reference to trauma or death or something like that. There are red darts, and Jesus is wearing this red coat, right? And the whole of this composition scene is captured in the Colorado insignia flag on the wall behind. It is also the mirrored reflection of the US flag on the other side within the big symmetry on the wall, and references to a yellow ball theme, right? So it all sort of symbolically blends together here, right? We even have these sort of half circle or half arcs in the Memling painting, which resemble sort of the disc of the dart disc, right? Okay, so this is an interesting one. I had never spotted before, but for some reason, because I looked into this fast zoom here, right? Okay, so there is a fast zoom or a snap zoom or a whip or crash. It has many names, right? So this is to draw attention to something, right? Or focus on a person's reaction or some kind of urgency, or surprise, or fear, or reveal an emotional state. So it's sort of to, right? And this is a way that we get to start it's to indicate the next breakdown, right? Here, a combination of urgency, attention, and an alternative to a jump scare, maybe, right? It also tells us that what Danny is looking at is not as important as Danny himself, or who Danny represents. So we see him looking. So now we start to wonder what he's looking at, right? So it's like with later when we see the little girls in the corridor, we hear that sort of a jump scare sound, but it's too early. It's when he rounds the corner and then we see the little girls, right? So we have the music out of sync with the scare, right? Completely deliberate, in my opinion. Here we see get the scare by the fast zoom into his face, and then we see what he's looking at. Again, it says we see Danny, and then we see what he's scared of. It's sort of this step. It indicates that it's the person having the scare. It's not. It's the personification and the first person having this. So the person sees itself being scared. Okay. The fast zoom occurs after Danny has removed 2 out of 3 darts he has planted in the board, and he has turned around silently to look for no apparent reason, right? Interestingly, the one remaining dart creates what looks like a bloody spear or even an axe to his head because of the zoom blur, right? This seems like a foreboding of what could possibly happen to Danny, and also reference what might have happened to the twins we are about to see in the next shot. It's symbolism. I'm not saying that anybody was axed to death, but it's a symbolism of the blood and the little children, and you're sort of being groomed into this understanding. There's also this, there's almost a triptych lighting behind Danny. He's placed in a triptych, right? Light blue behind him and white, and then sort of brown on the sides, right? It's another triptych. So then we get breakdown number 2. Again, this is symmetric, right? So we see Danny, we see the girls, we see Danny, we see the girls, we see Danny, right? This breakdown is not as strong as the prior one, which contained the blood elevator, but it has both the same kind of symmetric montage and some symmetry within the shots. It seems to me this breakdown is here to show a connection with normality, so to say, while it is still infused with imagination and trauma. All shots are different takes, which is a strange choice if Kubrick was not trying to actually create continuity problems. Yes, all of these are different shots of the same thing. The Danny shots are different. They're not just zoomed in, they're from different takes. Same scene, different takes. And so with the little girls. So in this case, we actually have continuity problems within the breakdown. Okay, Let's take some continuity stuff. It is difficult to say with certainty, but it seems to me that the green tables and chairs should be visible to the left of Danny when we see him throw darts, compared to the direction as he moved to the board, direction he looks in when he turns around, and the placement of the tables and the chairs. So when we see him from this point and he goes to the board and he turns around, and then we see something, these, at least one of these tables and chairs should have been visible in the first shot of, it's on the border, right? So it's sort of, maybe. Most, if not all, of the green furniture to the right of the twins move, including the ashtrays, right? There's still ashtrays hanging around, right? The nearest of the tartan pattern chairs to the right of the twins, to their right, seems to move a little. The handles on the table soccer table moves, right? The twins themselves move a little. It's two different takes. They don't stand in the same exact place, right? The home room does not look like something from a classy hotel, more like a messy common room in, for instance, a sanatorium. Think One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Yeah, it's not far off, right? So this is another triptych composition, right? And we're in the light blue and golden again, right? The golden panels and the light blue walls. The triptych's theme is still active in Wendy, bleeding over from the games room. The light blue color of the twins' dresses bleeding over to the walls here. The music theme also bleeds through to this scene, which serves very much as a pointer of connection between Wendy and twins and Danny. The composition here is also Wendy squeezed in between two persons. It's maybe more, speculative. But for some reason, Bill Watson is no longer here, right? So maybe this is a way of symbolizing that Jack and Bill is the same person. But yeah, I'm mentioning this in the next. Hang on a second. Yeah, we should. The composition is all when they squeezed in between two person, father, mother. Yeah. Okay, the wallpaper in the corridor behind them is exactly the same as what Danny saw in his supposed shine vision earlier, in bolder, right? What an incredible coincidence. You need to believe strongly in ESP to make sense of this otherwise. No, everything here is Wendy imagination, and what she sees is infused with her childhood. This could easily be considered old school wallpaper from the 30s or 40s, and because the apartment is a metaphor for her mind, she is re-experiencing childhood in a way, right? And Bill Watson is gone. Fluorescent light in the ceiling bleeds through from the games room. It is unusual to have this kind of industrial light in a hallway in a hotel. At least it's not the most classy thing to have in a classy hotel with all the big people, right? But it might be the case in order to have effective lighting. But, right, it doesn't come across as classy, in my opinion, right? The door to the right has been shut off and has their apartment on the other side. It has the room number 5 on it. 2 mattresses hang over the railing. Though not impossible, it seems very casual, not least on closing days, for these to just hang around. And they will stay there for the rest of the movie. Which may be Kubrick's way of helping us recognize later when we are at this particular spot outside the caretaker's apartment, right? Ullman says, none of the other bedrooms are heated during the winter. This sounds like a bad idea, since low temperature will increase humidity and the risk of mold growing. The mattress hangs over the railing will be staying there after closing day. The reason why Kubrick chose to place a mattress in a particular spot is so that when we see Jack axing the door, we know exactly where that is by the mattress in the background. Yeah, I mentioned that on the prior slide. Out of nowhere, basically, two red-headed, twin-like girls descend the stairway to the left. Wendy is... it almost seemed like they appear out of nowhere. That's how it feels, right? Then repeat the goodbye, Mr. Ullman, just like those in the lobby earlier. Then Ullman waves and says, goodbye, girls. Like, it's sort of, you old fucks, right? The themes blend together. Her personality split, her mother and father's sexual trauma, her jealousy of Jack looking elsewhere and at the girls, as he does in a second, right? Still, Dan is missing. It is not of her concern. And then the number 3 is on the door itself, right? 3 is possibly the most important number in the movie. Maybe, 2, 3, and 7 are important numbers, right? But 3 is also, there are 3 persons in the hotel, and, 3 is just all over the place, right? The triptych, for instance, right? It refers to Wendy, her mind, and her inner ghost, and the triptych theme. You can keep going with this symbolism, possibly. Okay. This is maybe a bit speculative, right? But when you enter the room, there is an oval mirror on the wall there. And I have wondered a bit about why there is this odd oval mirror on this. It must have something to do with the door, and it's turned toward this room, and the placement of the people here almost seems like they're coming out from the mirror. You see what I mean? There's Jack, there's Wendy, and there's and it's like 111, 3 person, and then he points down that direction into the apartment, way to the window that actually the bathroom down there where Wendy is going to escape in a moment, right? Or not in a moment, later in the movie. That it feels that it's sort of connected, it's extracted from this mirror there, right? Ullman leading the procession towards the depths of Wendy's mind, pointing very sternly towards the depth furthest away in this apartment before we have even entered. Continuity. It is peculiar that there are steps up to this apartment. This is normally not the case, as all apartments in a place like this are constructed on the same plane, right? The door number 5 just passed out, so also point to that before this particular apartment was jumbled together as it looks like it was, it must have been having the problem as this door. There seemed to be no good reason to this change of floor level, which should furthermore make a shorter distance to the ceiling under normal circumstances. So it's almost like 2 buildings put together in this. Is really a jumbled together, like things are being too. It's like stuff that doesn't fit together has been forced together in a way, and I think there's some symbolism in this. Wendy still in the center. Jack was in the center before. She is back in the center, right? And there's a light shining, or at least a lamp above her, right? Ullman has a weird smile. Right? He looks kind of creepy, right? He is a weird character. While introducing the children's room, right? Sort of, oh yeah, that's where the children are, right? The door behind Jack is a strange closed one that actually has a similar one on the other side of the wall. Instead of the this, there is a door closer to the point of the camera. The camera now makes a rare bouncing movement, this and back again, as Jack, forces himself in front of Wendy in order to sway in and look at the children and then back again, right? This is a strange choice of camera movement, in my opinion. As it follows Jack bending to look into the room. It's mimicked to a smaller degree by Wendy. She is also peeking a little, but she doesn't really look into the room, if you care to. It's like, yeah, okay, I know there's a room there, but I don't want to look. So it's like Jack is and Ullman is sort of checking out on her childhood, but she doesn't really want to go there, right? I mean, if she has lost her child, it's almost like she's forgotten there was a child. She's not showing any interest in his room. It's like it's like, what the hell, woman, right? I mean, you would be interested in how your child should live, and he has a separate room. That should he be there all alone, and well, how does this work, right? The camera movement, yeah, that's one of the important things. The camera movement forebodes the axe movement later on the front door down there, where Jack is going to. He does this, follows the camera, mimics the camera, right? And the camera, when he axes the door, it moves with his axe. So it's sort of, Wendy has already planned this out. She has an idea where this is going. So because she's in this scene now, she's sort of reminded of her ideas that Jack is going to axe his way through this door, right? Right? Okay. Wendy shortly looks at Jack as he turns back in this strange dynamic movement. Then she turns her back. She turns her back to her childhood in a way, right? She actually looks like she wants to go back out of the door, like she doesn't really want to be here, right? But Jack and Ullman, they're like, yeah, well, hey, right? Oh my God, we are all agreeing on this, right? Our little child here, she needs to be forced to do something that he might not want to do. And they give each other a knowing look at each other as if they are planning something sinister behind Wendy's back, right? Wendy does not seem at ease. At ease. As if she doesn't really want to be here. She is not as impressed as she was in the lounge. She makes a stiff smile at Ullman, almost as if she is submissive to him in a way, right? Again, we have this sort of claustrophobic up close. We don't really get to see the room or see how it's going. We see something, but it's sort of confined to. We don't get too many details and so on, right? The camera follows her closely behind, so it's somewhat difficult to orientate yourself about the apartment. The refrigerator is a model from the mid-1940s. The passage to the bedroom, again, is a particular opening covered by a curtain that has been opened. It's like, okay, something has been revealed there. It's also like, okay, let's combine these two rooms and cut something out of the room, like older, smaller room that has been combined into a bigger room, as if something that was prior closed off has been sort of violated and opened up to a deeper level in a way, right? It's sort of symbolism for digging into your subconscious, right? This is actually a Westinghouse electric refrigerator model B746 from 1946. Eat that, right? Take that. I've done a little research here. And I might mention, this is kind of weird, right? Why? I mean, you saw in the Boulder apartment, they had a much more modern refrigerator, right? Why are they giving these people who have to take care of this hotel for 6 months or so this old fucking refrigerator? It's like you're going back in time here. You're going back to the 40s. Everything is old shit here, right? The whole feel of it, it feels old and worn down and crappy, right? That's the best they can do to the caretaker. Give them a refrigerator from the 1940s. No, this is a place made up by Wendy, and from her childhood would be something in the 50s or something like that, right? So the late 40s, early 50s, and her parents would have this kind of refrigerator, and that's why she brings it along, right? This feels like semi, lower, the poorer classes and the lower middle class maybe, right? Having a refrigerator just mucked into the room like this, right? There is no real kitchen here. This is old days, this, right? Jack makes a strange move and again, he spins around. He also makes sort of a pirouette and sends a funny smile towards Ullman again while behind Wendy's back, right? Again, as if Wendy thinks that they are planning something nefarious, right? These are his parents. Her parents, I mean, right? Jack and Ullman represents her father and her mother. They're planning some shit about this poor little girl, right? In this hotel. The curtain has been drawn open. I really like this shot. Everything is being sort of revealed. She's looking around as if she's, oh, I've never seen this before, right? Oh my God, I've never seen this before. Oh, it's interesting, right? But it's a deeper level of her consciousness. She's being scrutinized, right? And she's not particularly happy about it, right? She's actually staring into a mirror right there, right? She's staring into the beauty parlor mirror thing, right? That is going to be central when the red rum thing occurs, right? Jack is interested in the bed, it seems. Wendy is interested in the mirror. Out of frame to the right, possibly also the TV, which is close by. She's a TV person, right? As hinted at in when Jack sort of jokingly says he saw it on the television when they drove to the Overlook, right? She's watching too much television. It runs from dawn to dusk, right? Probably. The oval piece of art above the bed is rather mysterious, right? This oval piece is like moving pictures, moving art. It's really strange, right? So keep a lookout for this oval piece above the bed. So there might be various. You see a lot of ovals in the lamps and in this couple of times in the oval of the darts screen, the bowl on the table. It's sort of in the lamps, when you see them from a particular angle, the circles become ovals and so on, right? And you might wonder a bit about this, but I think it's a kind of at least one of the things that's going on is kind of a self-reference. The oval probably also references the bed in the penultimate scene in 2001: A Space Odyssey. Seen from the vantage point of Dave, the tracking into the monolith makes what is to the sides of it resemble curtains being drawn to the side to reveal total darkness, right? So we're going into this black screen in 2001. It's the curtains are drawn and a new beginning, right? You're trying to get home in this odyssey. In the scene in The Shining, the same would sort of be the case if you lay in that bed and looked out of the apartment, right? In the direction which Jack and Wendy just entered, you're looking at these curtains and there's some resemblance here, at least, right? there may also be a bleed explanation for the oval piece above the bed. The mirror in the hallway to the left of the front door has a similar shape. And when the bed arrangement is turned 90 degrees, the oval piece, the pillows, and the bed resemble the way the three persons are arranged in the hallway near the mirror and the door frame. This might be rather speculative, but I couldn't help sort of drawing connection between this sort of 90-degree turned arrangement, right? Okay. And we might even speculate even more, right? We have this Apollo 11 badge, and we have the oval like a crater on the moon, right? And I have some interesting supporting text over there, right? There's an eagle on his, when he lies in the bed, it has the sort of same greenish color as the oval. And there's an eagle there, landing in the same way as the eagle on the Apollo 11, right? And Apollo, you know, you see the Apollo sweater later and so on. So it's not out of the question, I think, right? That he's trying to draw little hints here, but I wouldn't, I mean, we can go into some, I'm just mentioning this for the sake of mentioning it, right? Okay, so there's the L's in Apollo 11 are, Apollo has two L's and there's 11, and the L's are turned clockwise to the 11. If you have them, you have 4 11s, right? And 4 11s, if you take 11 in the middle, it's 9 plus 2, and then you get 1921, right? Like in the last photograph. And for some reason, Vivian Kubrick's handle on Twitter, or X now, right, is VIKU1111. I don't know why I remember that, but I said 111. I think I've seen that before, and I sort of associated with Vivian Kubrick on Twitter. And she has 1111 on her. I mean, it's like, it might be a complete coincidence, right? Okay, but if you take Bill and Ullman and Halloran, they have two L's, L, 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 right? And in the all work and no play, there's all and doll, right? There's 4 L's here, right? Or 2 double L's, I should say. So this is something to investigate here, right? If you want to go down this path. Okay. Jack is checking to the mattress of the bed. He is standing in the same bent forward pose that Danny was standing in when he was in the Boulder bathroom, right? And Wendy is observing it. Like she's filming it, she's creating it, right? At the foot end of the bed on this side, there is a mosaic of a stylized man sitting on a chair, right? Foreboding his lounge throne. The oval piece above the bed maybe could be a bleed-through of the toilet bowl from Boulder. Yeah, okay. Behind Danny is the toilet bowl there, right? This could also be a reason for. There's probably many things that comes together in that oval piece above the bed. It absolutely must have some kind of significance. And later throughout the movie, this thing moves around and disappears and comes back. It's all over the place, this thing, right? But what you see is this symbolism on the end of the bed with sort of a stylized figure sitting on a chair, just like Jack will sit in the chair later, right? So he's associated with sitting in this chair. In the bathroom, they kind of repeat the poses when Jack was checking the bed before, as if it is some kind of mirroring by Wendy. This doubling was also the case in Boulder when Wendy and the doctor closed the door to Danny's room. Jack is looking at the curtain, foreboding the room 237 later. it is a bit strange that there is a towel hanging from the curtain rod, as if someone is already living there, right? It could be that they have thrown in a few extra towels, but there are towels and sheets on the bed, right? That's usually what you do. You put them on the bed and a stack of towels so you can see that they're there, right? And they're fresh and clean, and you don't have something thrown on the curtain rod there, right? Jack is covering the bathroom window, and he's sitting in a triptych, a little triptych window there, right, with him in the center. The way Jack is puts him in a small triptych composition and/or stylized open window with uncanny Jack the Wolf, right? He's the shades, and it feels like a triptych or an open window, and his famous eyebrows that look like wolf ears, right? And he started showing his teeth and like a wolf, right? And the little scared bunny Wendy there, right? Jack is hit by the light and shadows fall behind his head. This apartment is strange, haphazardly constructed, old and worn-looking place. This falls very well into the idea that Wendy is imagining this whole place, and the apartment is based on her parents' apartment when she was a child, probably in the late 40s and 50s, right? Judging from the corridors outside through which they just arrived, it seems to be impossible that there should be a window in the apartment's bathroom through which the daylight comes in. After we have been to the second deepest level of Wendy's mind, the bathroom, we are now presented with the deepest level, the maze. As a first-time viewer of the movie, this maze should come as a huge surprise. We likely won't suspect anything since we have been subliminally subjected to forests before. It is an extremely elaborate hedge maze. An entrance, and why would they have such a thing if they closed the place down for 6 months? The hedge would grow out of control and the caretaker is helpless. Bill Watson is suddenly back again. So if you remember the overview of the helicopter shot, there is no maze there, right? There are three, the Wendy number, triangular formation on top of the symmetric entrance, and two smaller ones at the ground level. As we enter the shot, Wendy is actually looking into the entrance at the guy who is using a rake in a back and forth motion, as if he is poking the entrance, so to say. This is obviously a hint at sort of penetration, right? The opening there. The entrance is thus obviously a metaphor for a vagina, Wendy's innocence, maybe, and the triangles are phallic symbols chasing Wendy. This is the way that Kubrick says that Wendy, by having her head examined, realizes about her childhood. Interestingly, as the group of 4 persons pass what looks like the ticket sales stalls, the sort of fit with it in a symmetric fashion, and the spikes on either end of the small building have some form, as we'll later see on Jack's throne in the lounge when he sits and types. This might be a little far-fetched, right? Additionally, the map sign they are moving towards have the same spikes on it, basically the same roof. This points out the chair that Jack will sit in is a Wendy creation. Yeah, it might be speculative, right? Okay, continuity. In the overview shot of the hotel, there is a big parking lot in front of the hotel, which look nothing like how things look in this shot. The center tower of the hotel is missing. Also, there is no strong feeling that we are on the slopes of a huge mountain, though by choosing this particular angle compared to the overview shot, it does allow it to be accepted. You know, the slope is sort of somewhere behind the hotel from this angle, but if you saw it head on, we would see there would be no mountain, right? because this is in the UK. This is not in Montana or whatever it is, right? This is a building, a stage, exterior stage built in England. Somebody is arbitrarily pulling a flat trolley with logs of wood. This has got to be the dumbest way of moving logs around, right? Since they would roll off immediately. My guess is the logs are bolted together somehow so they won't roll off and disturb the shot. This is basically impossible, in my opinion. If you stacked some logs here, I mean, if you've ever moved around logs of wood, right? These would roll off immediately. The blue and red colored trolley forebodes Danish tricycle, in my opinion here, right? Ullman and the guy pulling the trolley exchange glances, it seems. For some strange reason I can't really figure out. Maybe Ullman's just looking into the camera. The set, built to resemble the Timberline Lodge Hotel that serves as the helicopter view of the overlook, is quite obviously differently constructed. It must have been deliberately modified to give another or a morphed look to resemble something other than how the original actual Timberline Lodge looks. Most notably, the pyramid-like structure in the middle of the hotel is missing on the set. A possible inspiration. The Hotel de Bilderberg in Arnhem, Netherlands. The Bilderberg Club is an annual off-the-record forum established in 1954 to foster dialogue between Europe and North America. Meetings were chaired by Prince Bernhard of the Netherlands until 1975. In 1976, it was cancelled due to the Lockheed bribery scandals involving Prince Bernhard. This is from Wikipedia. Wendy and Ullman tells about the presidents and movie stars who stayed at the Overlook, and she asks royalty, and Ullman answers all the best people, right? The type and colors of the cars parked where the party passes changes between shots. The hotel architecture does not match the overlook of the hotel in the helicopter view early on. The windows arrangement over Jack is 2x4 and even alludes to the rocket seen later on in Danny's sweater. Or even some kind of phallic symbol maybe, right? The cucumber in Wendy's kitchen has bled over to the phallic green bush behind Ullman. This is maybe a bit of a stretch, right? Which combined with his red trousers add to the sexual trauma theme. The snowcat, or snow track, has a front design that much resembles the child's face in the original poster. Okay, so now we are closing in on the gold room, and I think this is a good place to stop because we are closing in on the 1 hour mark. I like to keep these videos just below the 1 hour, right? So thank you for keep going on this deep dive into the greatest possibly greatest movie of all time. At least if you want to dive in and analyze, right? This is the GOAT. Please share, like, and subscribe. As I said before, would you please give me a like, subscribe if you don't do it, and tell other people about this series. I think I've done a pretty decent work here, and it might be illuminating to a lot of other people who are very interested in this movie and movies in general, right? Though it's a very deep and detailed and somewhat nerdy approach to analyzing, I think this is how it should be done, and I think this is how Kubrick wanted it to be done. That's on me, but I think he wanted people to sit down, wind and rewind their VHS videos and sit and analyze this movie, right? So, beyond that, thank you for coming along and see you in the next one.